What do the most creative and successful people have in common? They read obsessively. And it's not because reading gets you information, it's because reading changes your brain in a way nothing else can. So in this video, I want to talk about
It honestly changes, yeah. Reading books, and when I read it from the book itself, it's really amazing. I have one book over here. I was reading it. Start with Why. This one. I'm reading random books every now and then. Reading from the own thing. I tried on my iPad actually. It's not the same effect. Reading and concentrating inside. I swear every morning for the first 30 minutes of my day, it gives me this mental boost, concentration. Now, of course, I take coffee also with it, but it gives me this mental boost that I'm okay. I'm locked in now inside. I'm concentrating. It's actually amazing.
About how reading changes the chemistry of your brain, and why if you're a knowledge worker or entrepreneur, might be the only skill we have left for true creative expression. But to understand why, we have to look to how the brain has responded to these new info-based technologies. You see, the brain is very good at adapting. It gets good at what we do repeatedly. There's been very strong research to suggest that neuroplasticity, or our brain's ability to reorganize itself and form these new neural connections, exists even in adults, something that we all thought stopped happening when we were in our early 20s. The question is this neuroplasticity, are these connections actually in our best interests? Modern tools like AI, like the short form feed content, instant summaries on Twitter, and
They destroy the brain. They destroy the brain, the thought process. They make us not concentrate with low.
Using Claude, they're all optimized for one thing specifically, and that's convenience. Right? Speed, getting information delivered as quickly and as succinctly as possible. And it feels really, really good. But who would have thought convenience comes with a cost? I spent the better part of, 6 or 7 months in 2025 building this complicated AI workflow that would chain prompt after prompt after prompt, where I can type in one thing and AI would go out and do all this research for me. It would compile all this data. It would come back and package a video, script something out, and generate beautiful content for me that I can distribute to every single platform, and then I can grow and I can become Gary Vee in less than a year. And it is now 2026, and I can safely say I am farther away from that goal than I've ever been. Because when I really looked at the outputs, the content wasn't...
Because in your mind, I can do this easily with AI, source, outcome, and then you throw the outcome away because it came easily. You do not even put any effort in it. This is one drawback of AI. I've noticed this exactly what he's talking about. You don't find any benefit, even when you get proper results from AI. The only good advantage that I got from AI, especially I spoke about it earlier, is when you're watching a podcast, for example, 2 hours podcast, and it's really interesting with information, and then you take the transcript of all the podcasts, for example, throw it into one of the AI programs, softwares, and then turn it into an article, 6-7 pages, and read it. Get the most out of it, the value, the information. This helped me a lot, actually. It made me study better, especially when I print them out on papers. And what I noticed also, papers, they usually always help. This form, and if you print it on an A4. A4 is perfect for me.
It was flat. It was like diluted. And I realized the only thing that changed in my entire content system was trying to offload everything to AI and removing the best parts about what made my content so creative and so good in the first place, which was actually immersing myself in the research, reading, and connecting ideas together in like this manual and very human way. So I had to dig into what was actually happening, not just in my content and how things were performing, not those vanity metrics, but what was happening in my brain. And what I found in the research kind of blew my mind. In my research, I stumbled upon Dr. Marianne Wolf, a neuroscientist who spent almost 2 decades or more studying how reading changes and influences the way that we learn and the way that we have adapted to society. And one of the most interesting lines in the first chapter of her book, Reader Come Home, is the fact that reading is not something that humans were born to do. Reading is a man-made invention. For example, you can take a kid and you can put him in a different country, hypothetically, that child will learn the language fluently because the brain is wired to be able to understand language patterns and develop so that you can learn how to speak fluently. That is not true for reading. And in fact, the process of learning how to read actually incorporates so many different parts of your brain together. It's unbelievable. You might think that when you're reading, it's really boring and it's really slow and you're like barely using your brain and you're falling asleep and not paying attention to anything. No, activating your brain is very different from being overstimulated by social media, by TikToks, with sounds, with visuals, with 2 videos playing at the same time, like watching movies, that we forget.
Reading will clear your mind more. This is what I noticed. It's the one top benefit for me. It clears the mind. It gets me information. I remember when you concentrate and you read slowly, when your nervous system is down also, there is no stress and you read, information flows, you start thinking better, you start wanting to journal even. After reading, I get time also to journal more.
Yet, being overstimulated is not the same thing as actually deeply engaging in cognitive use of our brain. But think about this, even seeing a letter, right? Like the letter M for many, right? That letter activates both hemispheres, 5 different regions across the brain, from the visual cortex to the occipital cortex to the frontal lobe that's actually cortically thinking about it, and 5 different layers of the brain, from the diencephalon all the way to the telencephalon in the brain. Everything in the brain is actually working together to understand and comprehend reading. And the more that we read, the more we stimulate and strengthen those neural connections to make it easier and more fluid for us to actually access every crevice of our brain. And it made me realize this is why my content sucked in 2025. And so I did something really hard. I slowed down. I'm talking like physical notebooks now, where I write with pen and paper, I sketch out my ideas, I draw things, because I want to get back in tune with actually using my brain in the way that it was meant for. And I wouldn't say anything changed.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. 100%. Read in the morning, clear your mind, do your thing. Maybe if you find time, journal, start journaling, and then you get to plan also your content. I've reached a point where I'm working my job, my 9 to 5 job, going to the gym, and then because of the time, the gaps that I have throughout the day, I start planning where everything is clear in systems, and then I implement till the end of the night. Even after now streaming, I don't have any editors to help me out. Even after streaming, I still have this plan of 1 or 2 hours where I need to edit the videos and prepare them for the next day or upload them to YouTube. So with reading, starting the day with reading, for example, and then when you get the ideas also or the information that you have, you plan your day properly till the end.
Immediately. But I did start to pay more attention to how I was thinking, what was actually happening when I was reading. And I discovered a few interesting things that the research also supports. First of all, reading is fundamentally different from every other medium of content consumption because it's the only medium that really forces you to simulate and be imaginative with your ideas, without any external stimulus or cues that kind of muddy the waters. For example, when you watch a video, those visuals that you're seeing, like you see me right now, this is input that I'm giving you. So your brain doesn't have to fill in the spaces of what it's actually imagining, right? But remember back in the day, before they had the internet, before they had TV and social media, books created these worlds and these universes. And where did that live?
Until now, I believe, not necessarily for men, maybe both, also men or women, but women imagine things more, right? Especially when they are talking about, when they read, about some sexual stuff.
Right, they only lived in here because your brain was actively creating these visual and mental associations. I know it's hard to think about now, but like Harry Potter was first the book. Obviously now when you think Harry Potter, you think like Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson. But before those characters were like visually tangible, people just had to think about what does Hogwarts look like? That is all things that our brain was actively coming up with when we read. When we read things, we actually perceive them.
Your brain is being activated more and more information, imagination, clarity, organization. All of this is happening in your brain.
We live them. Your body is like almost transported into that world. The same emotions, the sweatiness of your palms, the sounds, the smells even that you're reading about, your brain can come up with those and inject them and almost like fill in the gaps for what you're actually imagining. And that process directly impacts like your nervous system to a deep level. And now I'm not saying that other types of content doesn't make us feel emotional, and doesn't actually also stimulate parts of the brain. What I am saying, what the research shows us, is that reading is just the most active form of cognitive work, right? Your brain is constantly predicting and imagining and connecting and forming ideas and synthesizing things together that it won't do as effectively as other kinds of content.
Now, he said at the beginning that it's a man-made thing, but I believe that this is why also reading is beneficial, because it helps your brain improves. It's part of your body or the way that you need to build yourself.
Because I stopped reading regularly, I lost that simulation muscle. My brain got really good at interpreting very like processed and distilled information, but it wasn't really good anymore at generating its own original thought. And as a creative, your ideas
I just wanted to say it, creativity, yeah, it helps a lot with creativity. This is one perfect thing also.
are lifeblood of your work, right? As knowledge workers, even as scientists, as professionals, like we rely on our brain to generate solutions to problems that are novel, that are new. AI is not going to be really good at solving new problems because it doesn't have that human imagination, that one layer deeper that a brain has, which we're losing if we stop reading. And we know this is true, right? When we think about some of the most prolific creators in history, they were all voracious and obsessive readers. And I'm talking about people who lived way long before technology like this even existed. right? Someone like Isaac Asimov, who wrote over 500 books and attributed a lot of that output to reading, or Voltaire, whose library of content is over 2,000 pieces of writing. These people weren't just consuming information. They were training their brains to make connections that nobody else could even conceptualize. And they did the best with the technology that they had, which was just, pen and paper. And it was up to the next person to read that, interpret it, and figure out what did that actually mean. That's why some of the most ancient texts, from the Stoics or, from Confucius, those texts have been interpreted and meditated on for such a long time because it's up to our imagination to figure out what actually did they mean. The effects of literacy rates going down has really, really big implications on the creator economy. This is
especially for men. Women are doing their job actually, and maybe they're not reading as much, but still they're now dominant in most sectors and universities especially. But men fell behind drastically with this.
why I believe brain rot content, AI slop content that has no substance and no depth is kind of on the rise, and it's winning because we are not really taking the time anymore to think critically and actually have these expansive and unique and novel ideas anymore. So, what is the answer here? Because I'm not saying that we need to abandon AI and go live in a cave with a whole bunch of paperbacks. And in fact, people like Dr. Marianne Wolf are not really anti-tech. They're just really anti-critical thinking and not using a brain. In her words, what we need is a biliterate brain, one that can engage deeply and also navigate digital information wisely. I believe the answer is understanding that your brain is the most valuable thinking tool that you have because it has something that AI doesn't. It has your perspectives, it has your experiences, and it has the ability to create an imagination that is 100% unique to you. Think about sports athletes. They train by lifting weights and working on their muscles. Mental athletes, the muscle that we're training is our brain. Let's go back to that sports athlete. We have state-of-the-art equipment now. You have technology, you have these incredible weight machines that can track your progress and deliver amazing workouts to you and really, really stimulate their performance over time. But I assume Roger Federer or LeBron James, they train at these state-of-the-art facilities where technology is enabling them to train harder and become the best and highest performing athlete possible. But they're still going in there and they're putting in hours, day and night of hard work and training to become the best. That's what technology is meant to do. It's meant to enhance us and help us use our muscles in ways that we haven't been able to before to advance to the next level. When you think about that analogy, how does it translate to the way that most people use AI to learn? Instead of using AI to train harder, many people are just using to offload thinking. Right?
Basic usage. For example, I will throw this on ChatGPT and it will give me the outcome. Okay, easy come, easy go.
Offload reading to AI tools. That would be like if LeBron went to the gym and AI just lifted the weights for him. He just kind of laid there and sat there. And unfortunately, that's what the experience is like for so many students and so many knowledge workers now. They're just using AI to replace the hard work. Where's that hard work that they need to do to get better? They should be amplifying your cognitive capacity, not replacing it. But here's the problem. If you never do the hard cognitive work, if you never force your brain to struggle and synthesize and simulate ideas, then those tools are making you weaker while you feel more productive. And this is what I recommend based on all the research I've done. Make reading a habit. Read more. Seriously. Now, there are billions and billions of books out there, and to be honest, 80% of them probably not worth reading, but there are some gems that'll take you for a ride. For example, the inspiration for this video came from, like I said earlier, Marianne Wolf's book, Proust and the Squid, which I actually first discovered on short form.
I'm reading more books about leadership recently, managing and leadership and all of these things, which is beneficial actually, but I'm thinking about reading more about some fictional world. Maybe I need to start, although I watched Game of Thrones, but I need to start reading The Song of Ice and Fire. The books of George R.R. Martin. I need to start reading his books, even though I'm watching, I watched actually everything. But we need to start reading some fiction also. I'm not sure where I watched this. I watched it somewhere, or I read it somewhere, that even fiction books helps you improve more your brain and imagination and the creativity also.
We're also the sponsor of today's video. That book is a really interesting deep dive into the neuroscience and how reading has developed in humans over the last 1,000 years. And what I really like about short form is how it doesn't just summarize everything. It actually synthesizes ideas by weaving in opinions from other humans.
And another good, another point to talk about is this thing. Not Kindle. What was it called? Was it Kindle or the Audible? Audible. I'm not sure about Audible. Everyone is saying that it's also good, but I don't think it helps as much also, the audiobooks.
About the topic and kind of evaluating them for you, right? Because there's a lot of people who have a lot to say about a lot of topics. And so short form kind of compiles all that stuff together and makes it really, really a well-rounded perspective. And the best part about short form is that they're still written by humans, right? Anyone can just go to ChatGPT and just kind of, give me a summary of this book, but I want someone's actual perspective. And that's what all the different summaries are on their platform. And from reading the short form summary, I got interested and I wanted to go deeper with it. And so I picked up her new book, Reader Come Home, on Kindle. You got to support your local neuroscientists. And that became the idea for this video. And on short form, it's not just book summaries. They can summarize articles, blogs, emails, even podcasts. So thank you, short form, for tickling my brain and empowering readers in this world of robots. We need you more than you think. If you want to check them out, link in the description below to get a free trial and $50 off your first subscription. Personally, I just aim for a simple habit of at least 20 minutes of focused reading every day.
This is what I told you guys. Start your day, wake up, wash your face, brush your teeth, take a shower. I'm not sure. I never took a shower in the morning. Or sorry, I take sometimes, but I feel sick after that. Anyways, finish this. Sit. I'm not telling you to scroll on social media or TikTok or Instagram, but take a book, take at least an article, maybe a newspaper. Newspapers helped me a lot. I'm speaking today. My English is average maybe, but I'm communicating and speaking also because of what I was doing, reading not only books but newspapers early in the morning, 20 to 30 minutes. Mark whatever you want to learn more about, maybe a definition, maybe a word, with your coffee, and then try at least pushing yourself another 10 minutes to journal how you started your day. Make journaling at the end of the day, which is actually also better, to write more and more so that your brain can stimulate a little bit. And then watch how your creativity, imagination goes up. You get, whenever you even find time gaps, as I said, between your work, maybe working hours or somewhere that you're out, you start wanting more. You either read more or you start writing more, planning more. You start coming up with ideas.
Just 20 minutes, right? And I promise you can find that if you just go to your screen time. Usually it's business books, sometimes it's philosophy or science, sometimes even fiction. But really, I think the content matters less than the intentional process of reading. And generally, while I'm reading, I'll also have with me a spiral notebook and a pen, and I'll just be sketching and jotting ideas and thoughts that I have down and on the insights that I actually have. Because similar to reading, analog handwriting activates different neural pathways than typing does, and it really forces you to process and distill information and synthesize ideas in your own drawings. These two habits just really slow your thinking down and allow you to really immerse yourself in the work. That is the learning playbook for 2026. Deep reading, deep thinking, and then you can use AI to amplify and understand and spar with those ideas afterwards, but not the other way around. So the choice isn't between reading or AI, it's about what kind of mind are you building. Are you building a mind that can think deeply, connect ideas in unexpected ways, and create original work? Or are you building a mind that's really, really good at distracting itself? Both can feel good, but only one of them builds something that actually matters. So the obvious next question is, what should you do with all those ideas that you've generated from yourself through reading? Well, I think you should share them. Share them with the world. Share them on YouTube. And if you don't know how to do that, then check out this video right here. This is my full...
And this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now, this is the new trend, I think, or our new way of living. We are online. We are literally living in this online world. Yes, we have our real life responsibilities, but we are living now over here. That's why I'm including myself now. I'm opening live streams. I'm doing videos. We turned into this digital age where you don't need to lose your responsibilities outside. You need to improve yourself from out and then enter with such skills. Everyone also now turning to social media as being skillful. They have skill of some sort. And people who are maybe naturally entertaining are only winning. When we come to the younger generations and talk about Speed, for example, or Mr. Beast, it's all about naturally being skilled or acting natural. It's for their own generation. What is wanted actually. But Speed, for example, more physical skills maybe, but mental, nothing. Not nothing, or actually smart also with the empire that he did. But my point is that physically, yes, personality, yes, but they're still struggling inside. And without the help of others, maybe they will never get the chance to use their brain properly. But all respect to them, I'm not trying